On the first day of the NFL combine testing, we saw some big athletic D-line prospects get out there and move, and maybe some of them moved up or down on the Falcons draft board.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to Locked On Falcons, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network on the planet. And today's Locked On Falcons is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you don't know me, I'm your humble host, Aaron Freeman, been covering the Falcons for 2 decades, formerly at FalcFans.com, RIP, still going strong here on Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. And of course, today we are joined by Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and we are talking about day one of testing at the Combine. It is front 7 day, so of course, Jarvis Davis is the perfect person to come on the podcast. If you don't know Jarvis's background, this man was a professional D tackle, okay, not in the NFL, but we know, we still support. He got paid to play football, ladies and
gentlemen.
I
was on a video game. God dog it.
There you go.
For those people watching on YouTube, it's right there in my background.
Yeah,
got the game right there.
Okay, so this man knows what it takes to be a professional D tackle. Okay, and we're going to talk about what he believes these guys need to do, all the jumping and running and flipping and bending and all the stuff. Big sweaty men's paws, doing all the stuff here in the D tackle room. We'll talk about the linebackers. We'll talk about the edge rushers as well, sort of what we're looking at and sort of how it relates to the Atlanta Falcons, of course, here on Locked On Falcons. But Jarvis, let's get into the D tackles, right? You know, your boy Lee Hunter, Texas Tech D tackle, right? Shined at the Senior Bowl, not necessarily showing out at the Combine in terms of putting up the gaudy numbers that will solidify him as a first round pick. But you told me off air, it's like, that ain't no problem. That ain't no problem as far as potentially him sliding to the Falcons at 48, right?
Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need no 2-down players, man. What you need with a 2-down player? A run stuffer? Like, what? Come on, first round teams. You know what I'm saying? Like, the guys who got the round pick, y'all don't even worry about looking at those big boy D tackles, man. Because here's the thing, man. I'm not going to cry that Lee Hunters might not be doing that well. You know, he weighed in. You can tell he's been working out. You know, got down about 318. From what I'm saying, he ran a 5.1. That's moving. That's still moving. 6'4", 318, run a 5.1. That's moving. I know Jarvis, she's almost a 5'2". That's moving, dog. Let me tell you. I understand. I ran that 40. It wasn't good. But yeah, man.
I've been able to run a 5'2". It's been probably about 3 decades since I was able to run a 5'2".
Right. And you talk about 3 decades. Yeah, you were an adolescent child. Like, so you were nowhere near the size that you are right now. So yeah, think about that, folks. You know, this is not easy. It is very hard to run that doggone 40, man, because it's just so much that goes into just the technical aspect of it. You know, form, all that stuff matters, man. I'll never forget, man. It probably might be one of those moments. But I'll never forget when I was working out on University of South Alabama's campus where they had a Senior Bowl. That's when I was introduced to Mobile, Alabama, long time ago. And I had a workout. I was working out for a scout. And I ran my 40. And, you know, now I'm coming from HBCU, bro. I ain't got no money to train. I'm just out here working out with my homeboy, trying to stay in shape. So we go out there. I run my first 40. There was this guy, and I could tell, like you can always tell guys that they've been training. So as soon as I finished my first 40, I walked over to him. He was like, hey, he said, hey, big dog. You know, that's my nickname for everybody. He's like, hey, big dog, man, when you were running, you were kicking yourself with the heels of your feet. He's like, don't kick yourself. Just step out. Just kick your legs out when you run. Don't kick your feet back up and to your hind part. I'm like, okay, I'll try it out. No, I did that for my second run, and I literally knocked maybe like a quarter second off of my 40. just by that one minor in the moment adjustment. So yeah, when I say it is a technical beast that you have to learn and to prepare for, like it is very deep, man. But yeah, back to Lee Hunter though, I feel like he's the type of guy that would be the perfect match. Oh, right there, 48. You can snatch him up, and he's the best player available. Like the wide receiver that's sitting right there isn't all that.
Mm-hmm.
Not as good. I don't have him that high on my board, so I'm gonna go with the guy who's the best player available that somehow, some way fits a need that I have. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah. So if Lee Hunter doesn't finish like we feel he should, just from an athletic standpoint, that is totally okay, man. Life will go on, and you can pack your bags and come on down to Atlanta, put on some black and red, man. We can have a little party over at Mercedes-Benz.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bring up Lee Hunter just because, like, it's I talked about this on the podcast before, where it's like it feels like there's like 5 D tackles at the top of the class: Lee Hunter of Texas Tech, Caleb Banks of Florida, Peter Woods of Clemson, Caden McDonald of Ohio State, and Kristen Miller of Georgia. Yep. And they're all kind of clustered together. And, different people like this guy, and I like this guy and this guy.
Some different flavors.
Yeah, yeah. And like the combine, I think, really does a great job to maybe create some separation for those guys where, as we know in the draft in the NFL, like you want to bet on athletes, right? Like the best players like are really good athletes. And this is why the combine becomes important. And, I wonder a little bit if, Lee Hunter, I know Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network has him as his top D tackle. I wonder if, when DJ does his top 50 update in a couple of weeks, if Lee Hunter's going to slip a little bit down and maybe someone like a Caleb Banks, who is just this massive human being. We got to see him at the Senior Bowl. Didn't have as dominant a week as Lee Hunter did, but, came on strong as the week went on. Part of that is maybe owed to the fact that he was recovering from an injury that caused him to miss the season. So, it's just one of those things as we get closer, to the draft process or further away from that injury, you start to see better performances in the combine performance. 6'6", 327, massive wingspan, like almost 86 inches, which is one of the longest wingspans on record, a 5'05", 40 at that weight. And so you're seeing Caleb Banks, who, at least for my personal opinion, Jarvis, just watching the film, if I was betting on anybody in this draft class of all these big guys that we're talking about to be the next Dexter Lawrence, Caleb Banks to me is the guy that I would bet on in terms of just big guys like that, and showing it here on Thursday and at the combine. Guys don't move like that at that size. And so, like, do you bet on the traits or something like that? But it'll be interesting to sort of see how this D tackle group stacks once we get through this combine and see some of these workouts and these measurables and whatnot.
Yeah, and this is the conundrum, not necessarily with me. Like, I understand the whole athletic piece. It is a beautiful thing to watch, to see guys that size go around and move around like they do. But man, at the end of the day, man, if Lee Hunter is your best D tackle based off the tape, that's where it should stay. It should stay there, because Caleb Banks can run a faster 40. He measures bigger than Lee Hunter. Like, you knew he was going to measure bigger than Lee Hunter before you went to the combine. So why should it change how you feel from an evaluation standpoint? I would not do that. I'm sorry, because the combine is supposed to be, all it's supposed to do is confirm what you see on tape. And if it makes you go back and look at the tape, I'm looking at it with a side eye. I'm like, all right, okay, I know you ran well, but shoot, what did you do against Georgia when it was third and long, and you up here getting your butt blocked up by Monroe Freeland? No, man, I need to be able to see it on tape. It needs to confirm, like, dang, man, that man got a crazy broad jump. Wow, he's really explosive on tape. Oh, okay, that matches up, right? Like, prime example, Zane Durant. He ran a 4.75. That matches up with what I saw in Mobile, Alabama, because that dude get off was crazy. Pause. So yeah, man, like this is the time of year where I feel like people make mistakes and say, "Oh, let me go back and watch the film on him because he tested well."
Mm-hmm.
What, what about playing well?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I always gonna fall back on, man. And if I'm wrong and he ends up being one of those dudes, I'll be okay with being wrong in that particular situation because most of the time the film don't lie, dog.
All right. You're right. Well, I think in Caleb Bake's case, you got to go back and watch the film from 2 years ago when he was healthy. And I think he's, he moves very well. I'm just saying that, pause.
That last day in Mobile, yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was there.
It's, again, big, fast guys. That's football in a nutshell. Just go after the big, fast guys. But, we'll move from the big, fast guys to the smaller, fast guys. But a couple of those guys are pretty big for their position. We'll get into the linebackers, and that will allow us to have a conversation about, what is the Falcons' plans at linebacker? We've discussed this a couple of times already on the podcast, but it's worth talking about on a day like today where we get to see, big old Sonny Styles and a couple of these other guys measure in the ways that they measure. And we're going, that's intriguing. So we'll get into that as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel's going to give you that chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win a trip to the NBA Finals for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about, which team do I think can make a deep run? This is the perfect time to lock it in. Coming off the All-Star break, picking that team that you think can win a championship or the conference title, it's going to add an extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now not only can your pick win you cash, it can also send you to the finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, Jarvis, we were talking about Kaden Elliss and, whether or not the Falcons are going to bring him back on today's Falcon squad. A week ago or whatever it was when Jeff Ulbrich was talking, Kaden Elliss, he's definitely coming back. Then Ian Cunningham
irreplaceable.
And then Ian Cunningham talks about, well, he's definitely not coming back. And so,
not on the same page.
But it's like, probably the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like there's a chance that Kaden Elliss will come back, but it'll really depend on it's going to be boil down to money as it always does with free agency. And a GM loves to negotiate in the media where it's like, oh well, it's a good market. So Kaden, it's the agent. It's like hearing that and like, oh, so you trying to negotiate, you trying to get some leverage in this negotiation. Right. I see you, I hear you, but you got Divine Deablo. You have a major depth issue on this football team, as we often joke on this podcast, Jarvis. JD Bertrand, Troy Andersen, not the most reliable depth pieces at the linebacker position. So it does feel like the Falcons need to bring in at least another young body into this room at the very least. But it's a real possibility that if they don't re-sign Kaden Elliss, they don't fill that hole in free agency, that it could be a sort of plug and play starter that they'll need to get in this draft. And I'm curious how, we're talking about potentially taking a D tackle in round 2. Is there a feeling of like, linebacker is worthwhile as a pick at that pick 48 as well?
Yeah, man, it has to be. When you look at the depth or non-depth on this squad right now, you got Divine Deablo coming back. And based off of what Ian Cunningham said, it doesn't look good. The market is thick. There's some. It's depending on. They got a lot of flavors. If I can use a Fondoism. When we talk about experienced guys at the linebacker position, guys who kind of like in that middle tier, coming out of their first trying to get paid. They're coming off their first contract, and he's kind of interesting because, you got guys like Devin Lloyd out of Jacksonville. Like, are they going to pay him or not? man, got stacked linebackers, man. I know Kaden Elliss can rush the passer. That might be one of those positions that we're talking about. We can find old guys, mid-late rounds, and they can be just as productive, for you as a team. So I feel like the Falcons have to get younger at that position. And people might cringe when I say this. They need some cheap labor at that spot.
Yeah.
They don't need to be spending $9-10 million on a linebacker. Why? For what? They have to get younger. Because if you know who, number 40, he was billed as Captain America, and he looks the part. And we got to a point in this season, Free, they couldn't even put this man on special teams. He was just that sorry. That's how you know. They need help. They need help at that linebacker spot. They got a help wanted sign right now outside of Flowery Branch. And they did it. They put that sign up as soon as Ian Cunningham said exactly what he said in Indianapolis. Like, one of the staffers was like, oh, he let the cat out the bag. Okay, cool. All right. We looking. Or look, if you're on the west side of Atlanta, like, we looking. we need some help, folks. So the Falcons gonna have to get after, man. They're gonna have to figure out using on how they're gonna use one of those picks to get a young, talented linebacker, a guy that not only can play special teams, but a guy that can come in and be one of those, hey man, like a Foyer Lukin type guy. Not necessarily 6th round. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gotta that low. But like a guy that can come in, you wrap your arms around him, coach him up, and he can be a starter for you going forward.
Yeah. Normally, Jarvis, this would be the opportunity where I would try to, throw a Troy Andersen reference in here to see if I can get you riled up on this one. But I'm much more mature.
By the way, can we just go ahead and plant that flag that I was right about Troy Andersen? Can we go ahead and do that?
Sure, Jarvis.
Thank you.
And the minute you're off this podcast, I'm going to be like, Jarvis doesn't know what he's talking about. It's actually the truth that he's going to say.
Talking about my back, dog. It's all good, baby. I understand our relationship.
Yes,
I understand.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
The very next episode, I will talk all the trash, right? Or mock draft Monday or whatever. But all that to say though, you're right. Like, this linebacker position is going to be a sort of a critical position because we heard all last season with Jeff Ulbrich coming into the building and how important it was, and people were concerned, and a lot of people were like, I don't know about this Divine Deablo guy and whatnot, and I don't know if Kaden Elliss is going to really fit in this scheme. And both of those guys played really well this past season, and was, I think, a big part of why this defense worked so well, because you had as good a linebacker play, and you want to see that sort of continue. And we know Jeff Ulbricht's history when it comes to developing linebackers and all that stuff here in Atlanta as well as in New York. With Quincy Williams and Jamien Sherwood and all those guys. So, you want to see something similar happen. And like, because of how deep this linebacker class is, like, this is the perfect opportunity for the Falcons to take advantage of. And it's just really kind of a question of how much investment is enough investment, considering, do you need a starter? Do you need a plug and play starter? And that lends itself to potentially a round 2 pick. Or can you just like, okay, well, we can wait till round 4 and get maybe more of a developmental guy. And of course, Ian Cunningham's he's gonna give us so many day 3 picks from trade backs this year. So they'll have plenty of what's going to happen, right? Yeah. It's just foregone.
That man is thirsting for trade back, bro.
On that note, Jarvis, like, I've been operating like bare minimum, we're walking away from this draft with at least 8 picks. Do you have like a number in your head that you feel like is where they're going to find it?
I wouldn't go 8. I'll say 7.
Okay.
I think 7 is a strong number. If you talking about placing the over under, I'll put that bad boy right there at 7.
Okay.
Right there at 7. Over under 7 right there, 7.5. Let's go 7.5. 7.5. Okay. That I'll place that bad boy right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because it just, it just makes too much sense because that man has, at every opportunity he's had to talk about vision, what he wants to do, what he likes. The man talk manufacturing draft picks, taking as many swings as possible. Yeah, this will be the last time I'll have 5 draft picks. Dog, this man has been really going in on this topic, man. So people, like y'all always talk about, oh, they never say anything at these press conferences, but put them all together and kind of look for the trends. And that's the number one right now. Outside of Kevin Stefanski saying that, yeah, I like Michael Penix, but he has to worry about rehab.
Yeah.
That's number 2.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I've heard so much about Michael Penix's rehab so far this offseason.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Michael Penix's rehab is number 2. And number 1 is Ian Cunningham wants some doggone picks. So, yeah, I think that 7.5 is an excellent number. And I would definitely be close to betting the over. But yeah, I think he's going to make sure that he has more than 5 by the time this draft is over with.
Yeah, I think it's very refreshing, Jarvis, for me personally, because it's like, as much grief as I give Terry Fontenot on this podcast, I get why Terry was like, I'm not going to say stuff because I don't want to, you'll never catch me or whatever. I get it. Like, I understand coach speak and all that stuff in the NFL, but it's just so refreshing when you're just like, hey, we're trying to do this. And it's like, okay, like,
yeah.
The only time in the 5 years that Terry was forthcoming when that was in 2024 was like, oh yeah, we need a quarterback. I'm like, Terry actually admitted that they need a quarterback. Like, I've never heard Terry admit anything about anything. Yeah. And it's just like Ian Cunningham is just like, we believe in picks, we believe in this, we did this for this, and this is why we did this. And it's like, oh man, this is
the way he answered that Kaden Elliss question. I was just like, oh my gosh, he just basically said, man, we good right now. Shoot. He go and test that market. It's a little thick out there. Just go on, test it out, and let us know what you come back with, or not.
Speaking of Kaden Elliss testing the market, right? We've talked before about how potentially necessary Kaden Elliss is to enhance his pass rush that we want to continue to see this Falcons team build upon after the big leap forward that they made last year. And so we'll continue that conversation talking about the edge rusher position as we've discussed, and sort of what types of investments they need to make and what are some of the things that we'll be looking for from this edge rusher class going into this weekend at the Combine as we wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. So we are in the midst of draft season, and of course the Combine is going on, but we're not talking about NFL draft prospects right now. We're talking about the 5-hour energy flavor draft, breaking down those tasty flavors, which are the best, which might be sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is here to take the top spot. And 5-hour energy has a wide variety of flavors, something for everyone. I used to go into the gas station in the mornings before my day job and grab that 5-hour energy, and the only flavors I had were berry and grape, and they're classic flavors, but now 5-hour energy has leveled up in the years since with 17 flavors. Peach mango is my new favorite with its sweet tropical flavor, and I definitely want to try the confetti cake craze flavor, the sweet birthday cake inspired flavor with that buttery, freshly baked confetti cake flavor, vanilla frosting, and that sprinkle of sweetness in every sip. So who's number one on your board? Find your favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots, now available at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. So, Jarvis, we've talked a lot about the edge rusher position, especially in lieu of the unknown future of James Pierce here in Atlanta, given his alleged off-field incident. We've talked about the need for the Falcons to invest in that room because if you don't have James Pierce, it's looking a little thin. It's Jalen Walker, Zach Harrison, and he might be playing more inside, and then it's Braylon Trice. And
who?
Yeah,
Well, I'm sorry. Let me take that back, dog. My bad. Like, Braylon Trice is not on Troy Andersen's level.
I was about to say, I was like,
he's not
Troy Andersen level,
but he's close.
Okay. He's about 3 missed practices away from being Troy Andersen level or something like that.
I would say 3. Like, you know, because I haven't seen anything from him. Like I saw some summer camp practices. I like what I saw, you know, but if you ain't did it, you haven't done it in the game, bro. Like, I mean, what we doing? A regular season game, man. I need to see at least one regular season game before you get up out of here, dog. Like, so yeah, you haven't reached that point with me because it was just too many people just caping for Troy Andersen.
That's what it was.
Yeah. That's why I was so fired up. Like people were just bombarding me with all of these hot takes about
people. Yes.
Troy people, just people, man, about Troy Andersen, what he can be, what he, you know, he's so fast. You know,
people.
He's just so versatile.
It's not person. It's not person that you're talking about. It's people.
Yeah, people. Yeah, people.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm
okay.
Yeah.
You
won't throw shade in your face.
I was going to say you come on this podcast and throw that shade directly in my face. Okay, I got you. This is how it is. I see how it is. But you know, the edge rusher position.
Yes. Sorry. Let's get back on track here.
It's very thin here right now when we talk about what the Falcons have if you can't count on James Pierce to be part of that room. And because, as we've discussed, you know, even if James Pierce is part of that room, like how much confidence can you be like, well, he's going to stay a part of that room long term because of alleged incidents off the field and the lack of trust that you have. And we talked about it with Jeff Ulbrich being that disappointment that you have, and sort of you have to operate as a football team is like, well, if we have James Pierce, great. If we don't have James Pierce, we got to operate like we might not have him. So, you know, it goes to, we've talked about the depth of this draft class. We've talked about several of the guys that stood out down in Mobile last month. But like when we talk about these guys at the combine, and I know for many, many years on this podcast, I've broken down like, hey, you know, here's the sort of testing that you want to focus on when it comes to edge rushers. You want to look at that 3-cone because that usually translates to sack production, you know, that 10-yard split, that broad jump, that's that first step quickness and all that stuff. But I'm just curious from your perspective, Jarvis, at this combine, like what are some of the things that you're looking at? Are you looking at the on-field stuff? Are you looking at the testing? Or, you know, or are you just really like, I'm just going to rely on what I see on the film? What are your thoughts on the edge rushers in the combine?
I think that a 10-yard split is one. The broad jump, obviously, that tests your explosiveness, you know, hips, all that stuff, get off, all that stuff kind of goes in sync with each other. Like, how strong are you down low? And that was a questionable comment. How strong are you down low? Can you get off the ball? Like, you know, can you close that gap with that offensive tackle or the offensive guard quick? Like, because that, when you think about, it's not necessarily 10 yards, but when you think about that 3 to 4 yard space that's in between you once that ball is snapped, man, like if you aren't closing that bad boy in within 1 second, you might be sitting there with two hands in your chest right there, and that linebacker squat sitting down in his stands like that, he might just be sitting back there reading the newspaper while you trying to doggone push him back, because that's what it's all about, man. It's all about the get off, and I think those are two of the things that, now the 40 time overall, that's cool, that's sexy, but you know, like it's all about that 10-yard split, man. That explosiveness, how quickly can you close in that first 2 or 3 yards, man? And can you, if you can get there right above a second or right there 1.2 seconds, 1.3 seconds, like in that range, man, you might be able to make yourself some money in the league.
Yeah, the 40 to me is just more just like, this is just the cherry on top that I'm a freak. Like you go back a couple of years ago with Trayvon Walker, and it's like he's 280 pounds and running whatever he ran, and it's just like, oh, I'm just a freak, you know. Like,
yes,
that's what it's like. This is what I'm just gonna drop that thing on you and show you what the. But I think I agree with you that those explosive metrics really, because of that sort of space that you're talking about, that these guys have to operate on and be able to, you know, close that distance in under 3 seconds to get to the quarterback. in order to, affect that play in a negative way. And the agility drills usually translate to guys that have bend. Like typically you have like oftentimes you have like different types of pass rusher. Like Tack McKinley is a great example of a guy that had great explosive numbers, but had very poor bend. And so Tack was very limited to basically I can just bull rush guys, and like that's all I can really do. I can't really get up, turn the arc, and bend the corner in order to win.
That wiggle, man. Gotta have that wiggle.
Yeah, and so very questionable episode we got here.
It's a lot of violations.
Yeah. But that's what happens when you're talking about guys in their underwear running around. But
yes,
but like it's like some of these testing metrics is like it's really about it goes back to what you said at the top, where it's like you want to evaluate these guys on film and see like, okay, how does this guy win? And then the testing should be able to confirm to you. And if you have some questions, like, I don't know if this guy's bend is quite right. But then I remember that was an issue with Aiden Hutchinson where people were like, he's a little stiff a little bit. And then he had a really good 3-cone. And it's like, he'll be all right.
Yes.
He'll be all right, and so those are kind of the things that I think you can really check, particularly with, some of these athletic testing, because it's like, you'll see guys try to win a specific way, and then you're like, can you win other ways? And so is that repertoire, is that something that we can develop at the next level, or is what you are? And I think, the combine is a good way to kind of create that separation, if you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, no doubt, man. And I think that, I think one of the things about the combine is that you look at the guys that are able to go in there and help themselves, and you got the guys who kind of like raise their draft stock a little bit. Those are the guys that people weren't necessarily paying a lot of attention to. They watch film on them, but he was like, oh, okay, I do remember, or I do recall that game against Arkansas where he went off. But, I watched 3 games, and that was really the only game that I really saw something. So you can go to that combine and you can confirm what you saw in that one game. And you're like, okay, maybe this can be something he can do on a consistent basis with the preparation that he has, training, and all of that stuff. So I really feel like those are the ones that I don't necessarily have a problem with, because that type of stuff can happen all the time. But the ones that come in don't really have that great of a tape overall, and then they come in and just kill the combine, like that's the thing that, man, my red flag, all that stuff, indicators, sirens, all that stuff is going off in my head like no, stay away. I'm not putting my job on the line to draft you. So,
and we'll see who else winds up being an Atlanta Falcon as we go through this combine process, and we'll be continue breaking down different position groups. As we know, the Falcons have a number of needs and a number of areas where they can get better across their roster. And there's a lot of players over the course of this weekend that we'll be keeping our eyes on over in Indianapolis. So we'll continue to have you covered here on Locked On Falcons. Find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Of course, check out the Locked On NFL, Locked On NFL Draft, Locked On NFL Scouting, who I also have that complete combine coverage all weekend long. And of course, make sure you check out the Everydayer Club. There is no off season for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free version of Locked On Falcons, premium Discord access, and so much more. Find it at the link in the description below at lockedonfalcons.supercast.com. It's just $5 a month or $50 a year to join. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.